Welcome to the University Network TV, where we scan the globe to give students, their families, and educators the very best tips for student success. I'm your host today, Dr. Crystal Rose, and on today's show, we're exploring the college admission series, Sports in College, 10 things most high school athletes may not know about playing sports in college. This is part 3. If you haven't already, please check out part 1 and part 2. And for today's conversation, we've invited back a very special guest, April Paris Joseph, to discuss these conversations. She has the college admission advice you want to hear. Welcome, April.
Hi, Crystal. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, April. When we're asking now about friends and network and how those two play a role perhaps in a student finding their college fit.
Yeah. So when I work with my private clients, one of the things I tell my families and my students is that I want everyone to understand you're going to be a human on campus for more hours of the day than you will be a student. Now, when you become a student athlete, there's a bit of a shift to that statement because athletes are spending 3 to 4 hours a day in training or with their team. And that's before we talk about travel, actual games or meetings. I'm just talking about the core training sessions. So that's your social network. That becomes the core of your friend base. And I really encourage my students as they go into recruiting visits, as they spend time on campus deciding official and unofficial visits. Do I like these people? I mean, really, ask yourself, do I like these people? Do I like the culture of this team? Do I like the way that everyone talks to each other? Because this is going to be where you spend most of your time outside of class. And these are going to be the people that become your friends. And if things go well, lifelong relationships that you will value a lot.
There could be a lot of different angles to uncover what one may or may not know.
Health is always important. And it's the physical health and the mental health of the individual and the athlete. So physical health wise, it makes sense for kids to make sure they're asking, is there a team doctor? Learn about the physical therapy options in the team. Go in and see the training room and make sure that they're taking care of their athletes.
So there are a lot of questions students need to ask. There are a lot of things they need to know in order to really find out if a college is a good fit. What questions should students be asking?
If you're in a high impact sport, what's concussion protocol? Especially with the football players and soccer players, lacrosse should be asking these questions too, because they get more concussions than we want to acknowledge. But that question, what is the concussion protocol? Who decides when an athlete returns to play after a concussion? And in my opinion, the right answer isn't me, your head coach. The right answer is that there's someone over on the medical team that's making this call, somebody whose job is not tied to winning games. Because we're all human beings. I'm not saying coaches don't care about the kids. That's not true. But everyone has this inner conflict when you're competitive, which coaches are, as they should be. My star player has been out for 2 weeks with a concussion. Of course they're ready. Ooh, I want someone else to decide that because there could be a long-term impact there. So that's kind of the health piece, the trainer, the concussion protocols, what's the team behind the physical health. And then there's the mental health piece. It's a little tougher to negotiate and figure out, but again, it's back to that. How's everyone treating each other? What's the culture on this team? Can we talk about that? And are we open about it? I actually had a student go on an unofficial visit last year, sat with a football team. This was really impressive to me. And the student came back and said they asked about mental health on campus. And 3 of the guys on the football team said, oh yeah, well, I have anxiety. I suffer from depression. And it was such shockingly open dialogue that these athletes were willing to have about that, which means you're not going to see what we've seen in the last year, which is, one is too many, but we have seen a few death by suicides amongst collegiate athletes in the last year. That a lot of them have made news. And so the question is this a team that's really going to take care of that side of their athletes? Or are we just going to drive and not ask questions about how everyone is doing as a human being?
Can you please tell us about the coach-athlete relationship and why it's so vital to consider when a student is looking for a good college fit?
The coach-athlete relationship is a really important one. And again, it's a lot of time and a lot of mutual pressure is what I'll call it, right? So questions that athletes should be asking: what do you want me on your team for? What's the role you see me playing? Because what you don't want is to get there and then they want you to do something you totally don't want to do, right? And that's across all sports. If you're a 400-meter runner, is this coach bringing you in and they want you to start going up to the 8, but you really want to drop down to the 2? These are just early conversations.
Now we know that a lot of things can happen, but what are some of the things that students should take into consideration that can happen with their coach to really find out whether or not the school is a good fit for them?
The coach is going to play a big influence in your experience on campus, and the coach could leave. That could be a drastic change that you can't necessarily anticipate or see coming. So both know that, yes, you're willing to give 4 years with this coach, but also know that coach could change. And so make sure you still like campus without the coach, and make sure you still like campus without your sport altogether.
Now, here's a question we've been hearing a lot about. What is the so-called broken leg test?
I actually kind of like to call it the torn ACL test. For some reason, career-ending injury, you just changed your mind. The coach leaves, you don't like the new coach, and you're done. You're just not going to continue your athletic career in college. Okay, maybe you're going to transfer. Okay, that happens. There's a transfer portal. There's a whole nother process to that. Or maybe you're done. Do you still want to be on this campus? Do you still have the academics that you want? Is there still a social world for you beyond the sport that makes this still the right place for you to be? It's both understanding the importance of the coach and the fact that the coach is completely transient, as is your sport. Again, back to that academics over the athletics decision.
Yes.
Your sport could go away. And then what?
Those are considerable variables to factor in that are often not set in stone. So all to say, it's not surprising that 7% funnel exists the way that it does. There's probably a lot of reasons for that. Last on the list, I have the fact that if you restrict the type of college you want to attend, then you are actually restricting your possibilities for a fit for college. Can you share more about this pathway?
Again, things are a little different when you want to be involved in a sport on college shoot, right? Because you've added this other additional level of detail and creating the match and the fit.
When you're working with your high school athletes who intend to play sports in college, what are the various 6 fits that high school athletes need to explore? Can you walk us through these?
So typically the students have the academic fit, the social fit, and a financial fit. But now we're athletic as well. So you have, and I parallel them too, right? So the academic fit and the athletic fit. Are you competitive at this level? Will a coach at this level want you, right? So that's the academic or the athletic. And we have the social fit, right? So socially, normally it's, hey, do you like Greek life? Do you not like Greek life? That kind of thing. For the athletes, do you like the team? Do you like the coach? Is the amount of time that they're going to consume, does that work for you? All those different questions. And then the financial fit kind of pairs up evenly. But when you're weaving 6 elements together, that becomes is exponentially more complicated. So the rule of thumb, and I'm borrowing this from another counselor who said it so well one time, said if you come to me and tell me you want to play college baseball, you'll go anywhere in the country and go to any size school, and pretty much as long as you're decent, like you actually can swing the bat, catch the ball, throw the ball properly, I can find you a program. I can probably find you somewhere to go. But if you come to me and say, I want to play college baseball, and I'm going to play Division I in Southern California, and that's it. Ooh, are you that good? You've really limited my options here, and is that really what you want to do?
Now, we talked about the different divisions and the NIAA League. How many schools do you ask your students to choose in each of these divisions when they're researching their colleges? What approach do you suggest your students take when they are beginning to search for their colleges?
When I work with my students, it's like, I want you to have 15 to 20 schools at every division to start. 15 to 20 D1s, 15 to 20 D2s, 15 to 20 D3s, 15 to 20 NAIAs. Okay, let's say you definitely don't want to do D1. I can usually accept that because that means you don't think you're, the top's fine. How about 25 D3s and 25 D2s, right? We want to start wide and broad.
What approach do you suggest your students take when they are beginning to search for their colleges?
So being open-minded, being willing to look at a lot of different scenarios, because what we haven't even really talked about is the match with the coach. Does the coach like you? You may be good enough. It may be, everything may match up for you, but if the coach doesn't want you on their team, you could go to a school and not be able to be on that team. Are you going to be okay with that? I mean, that's a tough call to make for a student athlete who really wants to be at the next level. So I find that that's kind of what we have to do. And I was just talking to a young man earlier this week, and what I said to him, because he was being actually too open-minded. His list was like hundreds long. And I was like, okay, no, we need to narrow it. I said, okay, here's the deal. I want you to be really open-minded, but misery is not an option. Hope that helped.
Great. Thank you for sharing these really important points and lifting the lid, giving more light to the process of from high school to college sports, what that all entails. Thank you so much, April, for joining us today.
Thanks.
Check out April's blog, Paris Educational Solution, on this series, as well as the NCAA link below. If you haven't already, you want to join us for part 1 and for part 2 as well. Thank you to our audience for joining us for this episode of the University Network's television show, Paris Educational Solutions. Now, with April's advice, you'll be more informed about how to pursue sports in college. Here's to your success. I'm your host, Dr. Crystal Rose. Until next time on TUN TV.